How are you, Greg? You there, Greg? He's there.
Sorry about that. I'm here.
All right.
I'm here.
How are you, Greg? Do we have Bluetooth issues? Is there a Bluetooth issue going on?
I did. I had to get it turned on, and I'm still a little bit in mourning over my Steelers, man. So it's been a rough. It's been a rough week.
Hey, Greg, I got to tell you, man. I don't know. Tomlin to me is a coach worthy of every. He's worth every penny, and we have no idea what he's been dealing with. Zero.
Yeah.
So
it's been tough, man. Let's move on to basketball.
Okay, let's move on to basketball. All right, so let's talk about storming locker rooms, LeVar Ball, and fights on the court. Let's talk about all three of those issues, right? In all seriousness, though, what is your concern about the Cavs? I'd love for you to weigh in on this issue. Should there be any concern for them at all, Greg?
Yeah. Listen, they suck right now. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to put it. They're basically a bad basketball team, and they've been like this the last 4 years, basically, in part because of their age. This year, you factor in trying to integrate all these new pieces. There's a lot of thinking going on that roster and not a lot of playing. And they're going to be bad probably for, I would think the next 3 weeks. Until you get Isaiah Thomas playing at the best he can be at, and then they work off of that, it's going to continue to be a struggle because they're never going to be a great defensive team, but they can become a lot better once they get rotation solidified and everybody kind of knows their role. But that's going to take time, and they're going to continue to struggle. That, and then you couple the fact that, Boston and Toronto, those are improved basketball teams in the Eastern Conference in particular. And really, if you look at the entire East, even teams that Orlando, perfect example. It's not the easy win that it might have been a year or two ago. So it's going to be a struggle for them. Having said all of that, I still don't know that I see anybody in the East beating them 4 times once we get to the postseason because it's going to be a different animal. Look, we had the same conversation last year about this same time, and they continue to play poorly throughout the rest of the regular season. They only won 51 games last year, yet they basically ran roughshod through that Eastern Conference. Although it's improved, I think their roster is improved. It's just their team hasn't yet.
So then who's the team that you think has the best chance of knocking off the Warriors, whether it's in the finals or to knock the Warriors out from achieving the finals, Greg, as we're nearing the halfway point?
The Warriors are clearly the favorites to win the West and to win it all. It's going to be a tremendous challenge for anybody, again, to beat them 4 times. But, listen, I do think that the Rockets present the best opportunity out west. If they're right, I just think that that's a team that will have a chance because they are a decent defensive team. And then obviously they're probably the only team in the West that when you look at them, you can honestly say has the firepower. Because even if you defend the Warriors well, you're still going to have to score, 110, 115 a night. To have a chance to win that series. And they present the best challenge. San Antonio, I'm really worried about because I don't think Kawhi Leonard's going to get back to the Kawhi Leonard level we saw a year ago. OKC, I think it's an interesting storyline. I think it'd be a fun matchup, but I just don't think they have enough depth when you start looking at their bench, and they still have other issues trying to integrate their big three. I just think it's going to be the Warriors ultimately unless something happens to them vis-a-vis injury. It's going to be a challenge for anybody out west.
Well, the refs might be just eject all starting 5 based on what we've seen on occasion. How do you, Greg, knowing what's going on the court, having been in this game yourself, how do you lift the lid off of this boiling pot and turn the temperature down between the Zebras and the players right now, Greg?
Yeah, I think. Listen, I'm glad to see that the commissioner and the head of the NBPA have gotten together. I think they have the cooler heads, but it is becoming a significant injury issue in terms of the relationship between players and the officials. And I do think both sides deserve some blame here. I mean, this is not all on the players or on the officials, but both deserve a significant amount of blame. And quite frankly, this could be something from a PR standpoint that could really hurt the league down the line. Right now, it's kind of an underlying story. But if this thing continues on the path it's on, I think it's going to become somewhat detrimental to the overall success that the league is starting to enjoy. And they're going to have to do something about it. And listen, I'm not one to criticize officials ever because, yeah, do they miss calls? Of course they do, just like players miss shots and turn the ball over. They make mistakes every game. The difference was there used to be, listen, when I played, a ref would miss a call, and he said, you know what, Greg, I missed that one. I owe you one. Now, I knew damn well he wasn't going to make it up to me. But the fact that he acknowledged, okay, I made the mistake, I can live with that, right? Because as a player, I know they're going to miss calls. So that's something. I'll tell you another thing. We talked about this on the show. I think because of the way the game has changed, they're going to have to seriously think about having 4 officials because you have to now officiate a much larger court. If you think about the half court, when I played, you worried about one guy shooting a 3. Now that entire court is spaced out to 30, 32, 33 feet. There's a lot more ground you have to cover as an individual official, and I think that would help exacerbate, or I should say that would help to alleviate some of the issues. But right now, overall, the relationship hasn't been great, and the officiating hasn't been as good as we've seen in years past. And again, those are legitimate issues that the league may not want to address, but I know internally it's a concern.
How do you think Draymond would take, let's add one more on the floor? He wants all 70 gone. He wants them all swapped out. Let's get one more on the floor.
That is a good point. He wants a little WWE action out there. No, but I just think it's something to consider because the game's just evolved, man. Rich, you and I have been around a long time. When I was a young player and when you were working at another network, the game was so drastically different. The skill level was different, too. The guys weren't shooting from 28, 30 feet. You weren't running offense 35 feet from the basket. You know, you were trying to get it into a certain area. So they have to cover more ground now. That's just the reality. It's a harder game to officiate because of that, you know, because you got to defend, you got to referee now more on 30-foot jump shots than you ever have. Think about how rare it was to get a 4-point play opportunity in the NBA 10 years ago. Now you basically get a few every game. You know, so that tells you that the officiating has changed. And again, it's just another issue that they're going to have to address. But overall, man, it's been a fun watch in terms of the game. And I'm starting to get excited about All-Star.
Well, I look forward to seeing you out here in Los Angeles, Greg. I appreciate you taking the time here on the show.
You got it, Rich. All the best, man.
You bet. Then we'll chat soon. Interesting stuff from Greg Anthony, at Greg Anthony 50.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.